Thanks to the panel for the invitation. So I'll follow up on that, talk about coaching and how it works for us early career surgeons. I have no financial disclosures. I do, however, have other disclosures. This would totally be me a year ago had you told me that I had to attend this session, let alone being here in the podium. And this is just a year and a half ago. And as another disclosure, this talk is based on my experience as well as a group experience from my junior attending partners in our group. So what are the differences? What are the things that we see transitioning from being a trainee to an attending? When you're a trainee, you have the goals ahead. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is not true, by the way. And as an attending, you start at the finish line. You're like, well, now what? Where's the road? Where should I go? As a trainee, you have constant guidance. Doesn't matter how easy the judgment, decision you have to make, how easy the operation is, you can phone somebody and they can come bail you out. As an attending, you have true autonomy in every aspect of patient care. As a trainee, you have structured feedback every month, every 2 months, meeting with your program director, with your mentors or advisors. As an attending, you have two main things, especially as a junior attending, to judge your quality of care outcomes, which is unfair. You may have 100 cases, they all do well. If one doesn't, that's gonna take you. Google reviews or any other website platform, which are, as we know, unfair evaluation of patient care. But we take it very seriously. The sense of progression, every year, July 1st, magically, you are PGY 5, you can take care of that trauma service. And as an attending, it's variable. If you're in academics, you can progress, but you don't know how long it's gonna take, how much work you have to put in. If you're in private practice, what is that progression? So peer coaching, even though it's more complex, as we saw in the previous talk, I see it this way. There's an observation, and this is bilateral among the coach and the coachee. An assessment, these usually go together. And after that, there's a guidance, feedback, or a plan to execute among both. We know that every athlete, doesn't matter what their level is, they have somebody to tell them what to do or help them in those emotional circumstances where they can't think clearly. So going back to this, as a trainee, you have some sort of coaching, and all of a sudden it's gone. Even though I do think professional coaching for residents is a thing and it should be available, but they have some of that. There's some of structure, guidance throughout the process. And as an attending, you're all of a sudden not getting any of this. Moreover, in the transition, during patient care, you're the only one. Now, there's nobody else that can bail you out. In all the outpatient stuff that you don't do as a resident, such as the CT scans, the pathology, all these calls that you have to make, complications, it's always your fault, right? It's nobody else's. It's not that the case was hard or the patient was very sick. Complex cases, oh, if my partner had done this case, things would have been so different. Scheduling, which is such a pain. Time management, how long the procedure should take. Now you have to talk to referring physicians. How do I do that? How do I contact them? I want to send more patients. Also, you're a boss. You take care of your staff. How do I run my clinic? I don't know how to do that. EMR, productivity, people looking over your shoulder, RVUs, collections, teaching, research. Now you have to start paying your debt. Expectations from the outsiders. Family, okay, now you have time, all the weekends for us. Financial, you gotta get that house. And social, your friends, extended family. So all of this, once you're thrown out in real life at that light at the end of the tunnel, which again does not exist, and you seem hopeless. So putting all these together, it makes sense to me that a possible outcome, if not a likely outcome, it's burning out, as I call it, and it was outlined earlier. I don't call it burnout because some people think that burnout is when somebody quits medicine, but really, it's all that spectrum in between where you're just not happy about anything, or you're just not enjoying your life. You're just looking for the weekend, and then Sunday comes and you're just not happy about it. So what are the strategies that you can get or receive as while you're in a program of coaching? There's two things that kind of take my attention. One is a analyzing your reaction and response. What are the reactions that you get upon receiving a stimulus or a challenging situation, and how can you change that to a thoughtful response? And also the facts and the stories. What are the facts of the circumstances, and how do you make that your own story? However, it's really not how things happen during that specific scenario. So on the first part, the observation assessment, I'm going to put some examples here that are probably the three that I consider most challenging as a junior faculty. So complications, immediately you think this patient would have been taking, wouldn't we have better care with somebody else? You know, one of my partners, a more senior surgeon, it's always your fault. Challenging cases, what went wrong? Why did I get into that bleeding? I had to open, this is terrible. Scheduling and time, and this brings me to a recent conversation I had. You have survival strategies. Mid-career surgeon told me, well, I have to do my notes from 6 to 9 p.m. every day. Why? Because that's how it is. And trust me, I've looked into it, there's no other way. So you get this tunnel vision that there's just no other way of doing this, and this is where coaching comes into place, which is this little picture here. You have to change your perspective. The facts are there, the circumstances are there, our patients will have complications, unfortunately. We'll have to deal with them. But how do you deal with them, how do you approach them is what actually makes you change and keep you going throughout. So that brings to the part of the coaching plan that is the excitement part, which is the execution. So complications, when you think of those defeating feelings, I learned this from my coach, and is, you know, what would you think if this complication happened to your partner? I mean, well, one of their great surgeons is fine. You know, it's a patient's issue. So you have to learn how to be objective and judge your own complications in a different way. For challenging cases, and a few weeks ago happened with our fellow, he struggled finding the uterus, and the case went excellent. He got a nice TME plane. He did a great operation. He did most of it. And at the end of the case, we were done. I was very happy. And he was defeated, and he asked me, I don't know why I struggled with that uterus. I said, well, I know, because it was a hard case. And this is how it's going to be, you know, in your career. But he could not be removed from that. And I had to tell him, well, what went well in the case? And he goes, well, I guess everything. I said, yes, everything went well. You found the uterus, you did the case, and everything went well. But we're not trained for that. And it's not wrong, because that way we're going to get better. We find our pitfalls and our flaws and things that we can improve. But there are ways to change that perspective so as to enjoy more what you do on a daily basis. And scheduling and time management. Avoid those survival strategies. Really, if you need admin time, analyze it. And I always get the answer, well, you know, there's RVUs that we have to meet, there's productivity. Well, have you really checked that if taking an afternoon off will affect that? Well, not really, but you have to do that. And if that's the case, is it really going to be something financial that the repercussions will be terrible for you? Is it worth it not to, you know, miss your kids growing up when you're working all day? So the purpose of coaching in early career, I think in my mind, is this. You take this observation and assessment combined with your coach, you work together, get a plan of attack, practice it, execute it, and then that can achieve your goals. And as Dr. Smith said, this is a constant thing. You can't just say, okay, well, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. No, it's something that you will still have these challenges every day, and hopefully as you progress, your challenges are different, and you learn how to deal with this with different strategies for those specific challenges. My take on peer coaching, I've been doing this for about a year. It's number one, in transition to practice, we lose a lot of that guidance. And so it's something that I found really helpful for me in particular. And it does help you to change your perspective in all the challenging scenarios that you get every day. It helps you get in your goals, but more importantly, and just to kind of corroborate your conclusions, is it creates a work environment by changing your perspective that is sustainable for the decades ahead in your career. And with that, thank you so much.